All right, last up in the grading section, we're going to look at the important grading terms that you need to know and the grading scales that the grading companies use. So we're going to start out with the scales. That's the kind of 1 to 10 and the different grades and conditions that the companies will assign. So kind of starting at the top with the highest grade possible is pristine, and that BGS and SGC both use pristine, and that would be a BGS 10 or an SGC 100. Okay, so that's the top grade, incredibly difficult to get. That's 0 flaws, perfect centering. Basically, they can't find anything wrong with the card at all. We're not going to go name all of these, but you can just kind of see here. Gem Mint would be a PSA 10, a BGS 9.5, or an SGC 98. Okay, so they have the companies have different scales and different, point grades. And then Mint, or you'd see it abbreviated as MT, and then there's Near Mint to Mint, which would be NM or /MT. So don't get confused by all these terms. Just kind of know that this is the scale that these companies go by. And then in parentheses is the point scale that the companies will assign for that grading level or grading condition. So basically near mint, excellent, and then down kind of on the lower end, very good to excellent or just very good, and then good would be down below 2 or 3, and then the lowest grade that you're going to find is poor or a 1 or an SGC 10, and those are going to be usually your really older cards or cards that are in really bad condition. So that's what you can kind of expect just in terms of the scale, and start to figure out which condition level you are, what's acceptable to you, what you want to kind of go after. You may be perfectly fine with, kind of the middle of the road around excellent, where it's maybe a 5 or a 6, just because you want those cards. Or if your goal is to get higher and higher grades, you may kind of draw the line at a near mint to mint, around a PSA or BGS 8. Okay, so you'll see those on the slabs, you'll see the designation on the slabs, but these are the grading scale and condition levels that you need to know. So this is super important. At the end of the course, in your course bonus, I'm going to give you a downloadable PDF that has all of these grades in it and all of the hobby terms that we looked at earlier in the course too, so that you can kind of have a one-stop kind of library for all of these things. All right, a few more terms. We've used the term slab before, and that's essentially just the plastic seal or holder that the grading companies use. So again, we've looked at these before, but there's a PSA example on the left and a Beckett one on the right. Not a big difference. The Beckett one is a little bigger and thicker, but they do have an inner seal and then the slab around that, and it helps the card to keep from moving around in there, from getting banged around, and they are stackable. These slabs are stackable, so that's pretty cool when you're trying to store your cards, so they're not just sliding around all over the place. But they do a great job of really sealing and protecting the condition of those cards. And just kind of going back to the scales on these examples, the PSA Jim Thorpe here is graded a mint 9. So you see there on the right, mint 9. And then of course we've looked at the Montana before, but that's a 9.5 Gem Mint. And then full bleed, we've talked about that before, but that's an important grading term, and that's essentially just a card that doesn't have a defined border. Here's an example of a Steph Curry Upper Deck rookie card, and you can see how the photo just goes off the edge of the card, so there's no defined border around the card, like there are with a lot of the vintage cards. Many modern cards and sets still have a defined border, which centering can be an issue, but when you have a full bleed card, typically centering is kind of a non-issue, but it still can be, but typically much less of an issue. What becomes more of an issue with a full bleed card is the edges, because any damage to the edges can show more if you have ink from the photo or from the design going across or going off the edge of the card. And then altered is essentially just a card that's been trimmed or cut or doctored in some sort of way. Whether somebody's tried to trim the card or cut it to, to take off a soft edge or a rough edge, or they may have trimmed or cut the card to make the centering look better, right? So those are things that the grading card companies are going to look at as well, and they're going to know exactly what the size of those cards should be, what the edges should look like, and they're fantastic at identifying any cards that have been trimmed, or maybe even somebody's tried to kind of colored up some of the card to sort of cover up some kind of damage or something like that. And then a qualifier. A qualifier is essentially some sort of flaw that sticks out, okay, that maybe keeps that card from reaching a higher grade. And here's some examples of different qualifiers. OC stands for off-centering. ST stands for staining. PD is a print defect. OF is out of focus, like the photo. MK is any kind of marks on the card. MC is miscut, and that's where you kind of see, and sometimes that can happen originally from the factory, like the cutting was just off. And TR is trimmed, and then AUTH is authentic. Okay, so here's an example of a PSA slab from a Michael Jordan rookie card that you can see up on the right side of the slab. It was graded a mint 9, but it has the qualifier in parentheses, OC. Basically, it was slightly off-centered, and you can see top to bottom, it is off-centered. Looks about maybe about 25, 75 top to bottom, something like that. Basically, what it's also saying is if this card was not off-centered, it probably would have been a 10. Okay, so everything else is great, except it's just the off-centering is the one kind of thing keeping it from possibly reaching a Gem Mint 10 grade. Okay, so that's where you'll see qualifiers being displayed on the slab. And when you're searching online, if you're buying cards online, just example on eBay, you may see a listing that says OC or qualifier OC or one of the other qualifiers that we looked at. So if you see that, that's what it's referring to, that there's maybe just one flaw that stands out where everything else is pretty perfect. Hey there, hope you enjoyed that video. Definitely don't forget to give it a like, leave your comments below, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to pick up your free sports card resource guide. Just click the notification link in the video here, or click the link below in the description. It's the perfect guide to help you get started or maybe restarted in the sports card hobby today.